Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Welcome to another installment of What's on Your Pedalboard. And our guest today, our victim today, Ryan Roxie, man. Great to have you here.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me, bud.
You bet.
Yeah.
You're out with Alice Cooper.
Yes, we are dipping our toe back into the waters of touring again. It's been a year and a half since we actually went out, and we're touring with Ace Frehley, so it is a classic rock extravaganza.
That is awesome, man. That has got to be fun.
Explosion.
Yeah, so you're out through the end of October on this leg, right?
And there might be some dates that even get added to that. Our focus is just finishing the tour, starting and finishing, because as you know, during these times, it's so crazy. A lot of bands go out and they're not able to finish the tour. We are in a strict COVID bubble. We're doing our best to keep the band safe, the fans safe, and just basically get things back a little bit to a semblance of normal. Maybe
Right.
it'll never be. You know, this new normal we might have to deal with it into 2022, but this is a good way to start it. And so far, the energy of the crowds has been even more elevated than I've experienced in the past. I mean, with Alice Cooper, it's a crazy phenomenon. We see this generational audience starting to come now. So you see little kids, their parents, and then their grandparents.
Right.
And at least 3 generations. I haven't seen 4 generations yet. It might happen. Great grandparents out there. But yeah, the energy has been getting bigger and bigger with every tour. And this year, people are going crazy.
All right.
I like
That's awesome. So you, of course, have credits that are just phenomenal. Gilby Clarke, Tal Bachman, Slash's Snake Pit, the list goes on and on and on. And the rig that you have here today is the one that you're out using with Alice,
this is the one that is pretty much, it's a basically what I would use, not just when I'm at home in the studio, but when I can go out and do club gigs and all the way up to arenas, and we've played even larger places we've been lucky enough to do with Alice. You know, that is the beauty of playing with Alice Cooper, is that we get to experience every single type of venue.
Right.
You know, from we'll do some small theaters at some points, and then, you know, like the last time we went on a major big tour before the pandemic shut everything down, we played with Queen in Australia, in Sydney, at the Sydney Coliseum, and it was like 77,000 people. So
wow.
Yeah, this is sort of my go-to things that I have when I'm, you know, at home or out on the road.
Got it.
So, and I'm a pretty simple guy, to be honest with you, when it comes to effects. I want, you know, as little in between this guy and the audience, if possible. But get yourself a nice, crunchy sound that's going to represent all those genres of Alice Cooper music, and then get the pedals that sort of complement each song. Because Alice Cooper is, you know, if you think about all the different eras that Alice has had, all the great bands that he's put together over the years since the late 60s, early 70s, you know, whether it's the original band or whether it was the, you know, Kane Roberts era or whether it was the Hunter Wagner era. There's so many different types of music colorings all throughout his repertoire. And what this band does, and I think we do a pretty good job of it, is try to represent every song that's in the set list with that same spirit of what the band that he had put together for that particular album.
Right. So cool. Well, let's take a tour through.
Let's go.
Why don't we start right at the beginning of the chain here? Tell us about this beautiful Les Paul I got here, man.
You can't go wrong with just a Gibson Les Paul. It's and the reason, you know, your finish of choice, but I'm a cherry burst type of guy because the band that we're touring with currently, Ace Frehley, you know, I saw him play it and then I was hooked.
Right.
And that is one of those things. We usually play the guitars that our guitar heroes play.
Right.
So, you know, and it's cool though, because I've been bringing out more and more different types of guitars all throughout the last few years that I've been with Alice on these tours. A lot of Gibson designs, but I've also brought out some other custom designs, and I have a new one called the Roxie's Revenge that's out on Rock and Roll Relics guitars, and it's a really cool looking guitar as well. So, you know, but this is like the workhorse, I think, of any rock band. You know, a humbucker, Les Paul, through a nice amp setup, and I'm really happy with my amp setup because actually that floor model right there, the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200, really treats me right with getting a standard nice rock tone. So, you know, just straight ahead. Then I have, well, people ask me what my favorite pedal effect is. I always say it's the tuner.
Sure.
Yeah, because I mean, I tend to play a lot of wrong notes, but they're always in tune.
That's awesome. I love that. So you're coming out of the guitar then straight into the polytune? Is that the first stop?
Yeah, that's the first stop that goes in there because then I can mute it and then, you know, tune up, which I probably should have done before that last example, but it's rock and roll, right?
That's right.
And when you mentioned those names earlier of all the people that I've been involved with, you know, I have been very lucky enough to ride some coattails with whether it's Alice Cooper or when I made the album with Slash and Slash's Snake Pit Ain't Life Grand, a Swedish band called Casablanca, which I'm very proud of the albums that we put out with them. As far as my own stuff with Roxie 77 and the newest solo album, Imagine Your Reality. But at the end of the day, I'm not that household name, and I'm cool with that. I'm still working every single day to do something to elevate my, you know, whatever it is that I bring to the table.
Sure.
But I've always considered myself in the trenches, and
the name of your podcast,
coincidentally enough, that's the reason why I call my podcast In the Trenches, because when I started looking around and talking to a lot of my buds that we'd gone on the same tours, we played the same venues, I realized that every musician has a story, an inspiring story of how they got to where they are. And at one point or another, we've had household names on the podcast, we've had guys that are still in the trenches like myself, but we've all been in the trenches of rock and roll. And even you out there right now, wherever you're watching this from, you know, you're playing, you're practicing, you're in the trenches.
Right. That's cool. That's so cool. Do they leave it to you to choose the gear that you want on a tour like this, or are there certain things where they ask for specific sounds? Or?
Well, again, we look at the set list, and then we look at what types of songs we're going to be emulating and getting that spirit of, and then we just take it for the cones. But I'm a simple effect guy as well. I like a nice delay. I like a nice chorus sound where I could use on the more ballady stuff that Alice has. And then there's some weird sounds like that Alice has. I call it the creepy sounds. Right. And there's a few creepy Alice Cooper songs definitely in this current set. You know, when we have, for instance, Dead Babies, you know, in there, or Steven. It's very ominous, freaky sounds. We'll get the right effect for that as well.
Got it. So after the polytune, then you're going into the Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 as your amp.
That's it.
Are you also using effects in there, or is that just your gain?
I am using the effects in there, and there's some really cool effects. If I, for instance, go to a clean setting, let's see if my clean setting works. So then I can go to That's creepy, right?
Sure. Get the vibe going on there.
And so, yeah, I can use some effects from there, but then I can also get the same type of effect with... And those are for more of the balladies, or, you know, going back to that classic Only Women Bleed. And if I want want to beef it up, I don't want to talk over my guitar, but if I want to beef up that sound and make it even a little bit more chorusy unit, I'll add something like the shaker. And it's subtle, but it's effective, especially when it gets out there to the audience.
Right.
And that's one of the effects and pedals that I didn't speak of earlier because I talked about delay and I talked about chorus. But one of my go-to, beside the tuner, is a boost. And because I don't know if it's damage that I have from playing clubs throughout the years, but rule number one, never trust a sound man to get your guitar solo loud enough. So I found this spark plug from TC Electronics I'm really happy with. It boosts the signal just enough, gives me just a little bit more gain for that, what is it, that Spinal Tap thing? When you want to go to 11, where do you go? That's my 11
Step on the
sort
spark,
of button.
right?
Yeah, it's my spark plug.
Right, nice. So then the way you're setting this up, if I was watching when you were kind of getting things going here, there are 2 loops on the Black Spirit 200.
Yeah, some pre-loops, yeah.
And you got the pedals in those loops, so...
But no, I have the chorus and delay pedals going through the effects return.
Okay.
And then more of the boosting going through the pre-loops.
Okay.
So I actually think that Sweetwater has a sort of a demo on that, and they explain it pretty well. And if they don't, I know that Hughes and Kentner has, they try to explain it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like I'm the last technological guy. I'm old school, Marshall amp. Just plug in a JCM 800 and go with a cord. And I did it for many, many, many years.
Right.
But then I found that, this is a lot lighter, and it gives the sound technician, which he's really good. He does boost my solos. I'm not throwing any sound technician that we have on the Alice Cooper tour under the bus because I still want my guitar heard. But the thing is, it gives him a lot of options for front of house.
Sure.
And so, because it's got that built-in red box direct out, although we are miking it up with a bunch of different biodynamic mics, which I'm really happy with as well.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we work through the path
we're
here.
working through the thing, okay.
Yeah.
Chronological, like Alfred Hitchcock.
Gotta go. Yes, exactly. Okay, so you talked about modulation effects, the Dimension C, which is such a cool pedal.
I actually use that and the Petrucci, I think it's a John Petrucci TC Electronics chorus unit as well. These flashback delays, I like to have on for solos. Try not to have them on, and this is just a good rule of thumb if you play with more than one guitar player in a band. I play with 3, if I even do that right, but I play with Nita Strauss, Tommy Henriksen, and myself are the 3 guitar players. We get that luxury of having that overdub guitar. So you have those 2 main parts that are in most Alice Cooper songs, but then we also have now a 3rd guitar that can do all the harmonies, and and we break it up, pretty fairly. We kind of all know when we hear a song in the set, we go, oh, that's a Nita Strauss solo, or that's a Tommy solo, or that's a Roxie solo. So I don't use delays so much during verses and choruses, but when a solo happens, a little bit more space, it's your time to shine, that's when we use it.
Got it. Can you show us how you have the 2 delays set?
Yeah. Let's go to go back to that dirty sound, and then the intro in 18. And you can see it being in the effects loop. It has that really nice sort of dirty, not overbearing delay, but just fattens it up and gives you that space that you want.
Right.
And again, for the other one, I kind of use a little bit more tight type of delay. So for an instance, like a song. Be My Lover, there's a little part in there that definitely requires a slapback type of echo. So I have a slapback on this one and more of a long delay there. So.
Okay.
And again, another one of those workhorse type of pedals is the wah. You know, you don't want to overuse the wah. You can have definitely wah overdose.
Right.
And with the Alice Cooper Band, I usually don't have enough time to overuse it because we're running from stage right to stage left, trying just to avoid Alice wielding a sword or something like that. But I'm a huge fan. Like the Les Paul, it's just a staple wah pedal for me has always been the Bad Horsey. I love the fact that it's an auto turn on. I don't have to mess with is it on or is it not? Am I Michael Schenker? Am I not Michael Schenker? I don't know. So.
Right.
For those of you that don't understand that reference, there is this thing called the internet, and you can go check out the tone of Michael Schenker halfway through.
That's right. That's right.
You know
this.
This.
Always on, man. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So show us on the Spark, how much are you actually boosting the level when you use it?
Well, the way it's set up today, I'm not sure if you're going to hear it as much as you would hear it in the... So it is definitely has a dB boost to it, but what I like about it is that, again, going back to Spinal Tap references, the sustain.
Right.
It gives you a lot more sustain because, and again, if you don't know what Spinal Tap is, that's your homework.
Yes.
If there's any takeaway of that, Nigel Tufnell will be your new guitar hero.
That's awesome.
Not
That's
Ryan
so cool.
Roxie.
That's so cool.
Maybe both.
And you're driving everything with the Chocks power supply?
Love it.
DC-10?
I love it because been using it for years. It works US and Europe and Australia.
Right.
And it works, everywhere that I need it to. With a flick of a button, you can switch the power on it, and quiet as hell. So, yeah, I'm a fan.
Cool. Man, that's awesome. It's a compact rig. Not too complex, but you can get a lot of sounds out of it.
Well, like I said, it's the things that I need out of it for these songs, because again, with that luxury of having 3 guitar players, you don't want to have too much, but you want to have enough to get the spirit of the song. And when I was playing just those simple chorusy units, or whether it's again that real weird vibrato-y sound, like. And if I really want to go nuts and, drive everybody crazy with all this effects. And that's Steven. But it's more just so you guys could see that I'm wearing red boots. That was a showcase for my boots, I guess.
Got to get those in there too. Big part of the tone.
Yeah, it's the only thing I'm not endorsed with, right? Maybe I can find that.
There you go. Track down the boot manufacturer. Right on. After this, right?
No, but it's the whole rig sounds good. And what I'm really happy about is if I'm in the studio and I'm using the biodynamic mics to, mic all this stuff up through a cabinet, it works. Or if I'm at home and I'm using it to sort of do my podcast and do some live streaming. And I also, have a guitar system that I came up with during the pandemic. We've been working on it before, but we actually released it during the pandemic because we felt that people, needed something to do while they were stuck indoors. And what better thing to do than play guitar? So we came up with a system called the System 12 Guitar Method. And so when I do stuff that's live on live streaming, this is a perfect unit for, perfect setup to get it all out there. And it sounds good.
Right. Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the biodynamic stuff you're using. You're using the Dt770 Pro headphones, right?
Yeah. These aren't the 1770. These are the 770s.
I missed the number. Yep.
No. But the 1770s, they're an upstep. There's a step up. If I really wanted to upsell you, I'd say 1770s. But these sound great as well. Mm-hmm. These are the 770s. I take these on the road. The 770s, I broadcast all my podcasts in hotel rooms around the U.S. I'm currently doing it. If you check out an episode, every Friday we live stream, but you can check out any of the older episodes on my YouTube channel. Sure. We're not as big as your YouTube channel, but we want to get on.
There, yeah, man.
Maybe I can get in the algorithm.
There you go.
I need to ride the coattails of Mitch. Enough riding the coattails of Alice Cooper and Slash. Mitch is my new guy to sort of surf the alien. But I use this with what is this guy over here? My Fox USB mic. Basically, perfect USB mic for me to have mobile. When I'm at home in the studio, I have the TV70. Is that the one? What it is?
TV or TG, yeah.
Yeah, and I have a little bit more of a proper studio setup for that. But again, if I just want to jam in my hotel room, those headphones are perfect just to plug into the headphone jack of the Black Spirit as well. So it's multi-purpose, multifunctional.
Works great, yeah. So we've got 3 of the Beyer mics on the cabinet.
I can play some examples of how each of them sound, and then we can go. I guess we could start with the 160 and
so it's a M160, which is a ribbon mic with a supercardioid polar pattern, which is interesting in a ribbon, man. It rejects sound around the room, let's check it out. Let's hear it.
All right. Dang. I knew you were a gear nerd underneath that cool leather jacket of yourself. I knew you knew the specs. All right, so let me again make sure I'm in tune, because that's my go-to pedal. And I'll play one riff 3 different times. So I might as well play a riff that I think everybody knows.
There you go.
And maybe not with that sound. I'll play it with. Play that riff with this sound, just a straight, no effects right now going on, so you guys can hear the beauty of the microphone. And I think you know this riff. So this will be the M160. Why not? So you know that song.
Nice, absolutely.
A couple times.
Yeah, well, you play it perfectly.
Well, no, I play it consistently. Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
It shouldn't be perfect, right?
Right.
It should never be perfect. So I'll play it one more time now, and we'll switch to the M88.
M88,
for
which
consistency's
is
sake.
dynamic microphone.
Yep. Oh, do you have something more to say about that microphone?
Well, I could, but we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
It really should be Phil Collins singing through.
That's right. Phil Collins uses this as a vocal mic, and if he was in front of my amp,
he'd be singing.
You'd have no more Phil Collins music. Some people would celebrate. Other people wouldn't be so happy. So let's see. Now that I played it perfect.
There you go. Right on. I noticed that.
That was close.
That was awesome.
And again, rock and roll shouldn't be perfect. Mm-hmm. It has to have a little bit of that, that fudging vibe up a little bit.
Yeah, right.
And with 3 guitar players in the Alice Cooper lineup, we do a good job of that. We hold up to that spirit every single night.
That is so awesome. So awesome.
And now we'll do one last time with the M201.
The 201, yeah. Let's hear that one.
It's good for drums. It's good for guitars.
Right.
Good for acoustics. I'll try that. And obviously this is not an acoustic, but you know the riff by now.
Beautiful.
Okay, there
Beautiful.
you go.
Man, it's got to be so cool to play those classic songs with the man. Get out there and actually in front of all those people. It's got to be a real thrill.
The biggest thrill for me is seeing the looks of people's faces and seeing them relive the first time they heard that classic song. Because
Right.
we all have that. We all have that song where we go, oh man, every time it comes on, I remember where I was when I heard it. I remember that era of my life, and that was the soundtrack of it.
Right.
So, like, for instance, if we have a song like I get to start that song every single night, and I think it's like the coolest thing to do, because that's just one of those riffs that everybody knows. It
Right.
doesn't matter how old, how young you are, you just feel the spirit of rock and roll.
Right, man. That is so cool. That is so cool. Man, we appreciate you taking time. Sit down
Thanks
with us.
for
It's
having
been
me, Mitch.
a lot
I mean,
of fun having you here, man.
A lot of information to pack in.
Yeah.
You've gotten, the complete amp setup, the pedal setup, the microphone setup, the headphone, my podcast,
Yeah.
my guitar
System 12, yeah.
System 12 guitar method. If anyone's out there, because that has been my goal now for at least now since we released it, to get as many people playing guitar as possible. I've been doing it for years. I've been working on this method for a bunch of years of how to teach guitar simple, because a lot of people are like, I want to learn how to play guitar, but it's too difficult. And I always say, you know what? It's because you are told it's difficult. It's not as difficult as you think. The guitar itself is basically only 12 frets,
Right.
hence System 12. In music, total, there's 12 notes. There's only really 7 notes with their sharps and flats, but 12 notes total. So if you can just, I always say, if you can count up to the number 12 and say your ABCs until the letter G, which pretty much everybody can,
Right.
then I can teach you how to play guitar.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely want to check that out. Also, check out your solo music. Got lots
Yeah.
of great stuff going on there. We talked a lot about Alice, but you're a solo artist as well.
I have my Imaginary Reality solo album out now. If you can check out all the videos for that, that's, again, on my YouTube official channel. If you want to find all things Roxie, it's ryanroxie.com, because that has links for everything. But if you're watching YouTube right now, because you're under his algorithm, under his spell, I'm writing his coattails, and go to my Ryan Roxie official YouTube channel, because that's a cool place to go check out the podcast, information about System 12, and all my solo music as well.
Tons of great stuff.
Thank you. And this
Great.
interview will be on there as well.
Oh, awesome. We're going to leave that up. Right on, man.
Thanks,
Great to
Mitch.
see you. Thank
Have
you
a
so
great one.
much. Great show tonight. And then you get a couple days off, right?
Well, we get one day off.
One day off.
But you
Play a
know
little
what?
golf.
I'm going to go play golf on that day off, because we're in the midst of 3 in a row.
Of course you are. Right on. And thank you for joining us today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.